Okay, we will this afternoon discuss about the stakeholder analysis, which is very important part of the policy process, which many people forget about. I told you the importance of involving the people, stakeholders, in even in the policy development process also, so that it will. So, who are the stakeholders? So, in this session, we will learn what is stakeholder analysis, what they mean by stakeholder, what are different types of stakeholders, and how to involve them, what are the mechanisms available to involve them. So, stakeholder analysis is a process of systematically gathering and analyzing qualitative information to determine whose interests should be taken into account when developing and or implementing a policy or a program. Can be a policy or program, can be during the development of phase, or when you are implementing also, you have to involve. So it is a process, systematically collecting information about various categories and analyze and see what are their interests, how will they react to this, so that you are prepared to face any things they pose this. Who is a stakeholder? So, stakeholder analysis is the identification of project's key stakeholders. First, you have to identify who are the stakeholders. If you are developing a policy, you must look at who are the people who will be affected or who have an interest in what you are going to do. So, first step is you have to identify who are those people. Then you have to assess their interest and assessment of interest. What are each stakeholders? What are their interests? Why they are interested in this? Those reasons also, and then the ways in which these interests affect the project riskiness or viability. Policy, how will that affect? Whether they are positive or will they support? Some stakeholders might oppose or try to block you. So beforehand knowing that, you can take action to assess the risk and the viability, whether it is possible or if so many people are against this thing, it's better give up that you don't do it unless you explain to them and get them on board. So it is that is what the analysis involves. I first to identify the stakeholders, assess their interest, and see how their interest will affect your policy or the program. It is linked to both institutional appraisal and social analysis, drawing on the information deriving from these approaches, contributing to the combining of such data in a single framework. So you put all together and prepare a framework. These are the stakeholder analysis as a report. And also stakeholder analysis contributes to project design. When you are planning a project, or given a policy, then after policy you are developing a program or a project, then you have to involve them very much when you are developing the logical framework and identify them and getting them involved in the process. Who is a stakeholder? Who is a stakeholder? How we define a stakeholder? Yes, okay. A person or institution or group who are interested, maybe because they may be positive that they favor that. Or some people are interested because it might affect them adversely, therefore they are against. So both sides you have to weigh, not only the people support. So stakeholders are people who have some interest in what you are going to do, in the policy that you are going to develop. Stakeholders are people who have an interest or who are affected. They might have an effect, or they don't have an interest, but they get affected from your policy. Then they are a stakeholder. Stakeholders in the process are actors. They can be either persons or organizations. Actors with a vested interest in the policy being promoted. They have some interest in what you are going to do and what you are going to develop, the policy you are going to develop. These stakeholders or interested parties can be usually grouped. What are the broad groups of stakeholders that you know of? Say you are going to develop a policy. Who are those people who will be interested? Who will say you are going to develop a health policy? Who will be negatively affected, or who will benefit, or who will be interested in what policy that you are going to develop? Who are the broad groups of people?
Shareholders.
Shareholders means what? That's not that we are using the term stakeholders. Right, okay, those who are providing finances also, like mainly the donor agencies, exactly if they are going to give money, they will be interested. They are an important stakeholder group. So people who are going to provide some inputs or finances or some support to them, they are interested. They want to know what will happen to their money, how whether they are spent properly. So they will be interested. Beneficiary, that is the first group, people who are going to benefit from the policy that you are going to develop or your project or the policy. That be a policy program or a project. So people who are going to benefit, the beneficiaries, are the most important stakeholder group. Many a times we develop policies without asking them what they want. Right? So the first group you have to ask is that exactly what they want and this is what we are going to do. Are you happy with that? Are you ask for their views? So that is very important. So first important group is the other beneficiaries of your work. Any other groups? So financing or agencies, donor agencies, they are interested. Beneficiaries are interested. Who are the other people who are interested? Yes, there are people who are interested in the environment and they are always out what we are going to do with what environmental impact it will have on this thing, and then they will come forward and try to protest. If it is adversely affecting it, they know, then they will say you know what happened at Gangula's famous hotel was we set up a lot of protests and now nobody are that one international awards also handled a lot of people were scared that the environment will not be protected. The environment will get adversely affected by so they swim and they hate with the explain and India. So the people environment that sort of groups who are again they are some interest groups. Any other
Person industry guys.
Yeah.
Person industry people. Other people who are in the same industry.
Yes, people, that is, there are two types of people. People who make the decisions in the organization. And also the people who are implementing, who are doing the work. Right? If we are developing a health policy, we have to consult the people, who are the people who will be interested in the ministry. The various professional groups. The doctors will be interested, the nurses will be interested, the paramedics will be interested. So they are the people who will be get affected the way they are working. It will affect the way they are working. So they will be interested in to know what you are going to do and how it will affect. So those we call the program managers and the program implementers, people who deliver the services. They are also, we have to consult them also. Many times, at times, when the task force report also, they didn't consult the trade unions. Trade unions. They said, oh, this is the first time we can't. They wanted them to approve the final version. Till then, they were not consulted and told about it. They were called to the parliament and the meeting, they said, no, this is the first time we are seeing, we want to study this document. We can't approve. That's why if they, from the beginning they share, they involve them, then they know what you were doing. They would have given immediately, okay, this is good, this is for the benefit of the country, we will support. Right? So the people who are in delivering services are very important. Stakeholder, very good. Anybody else?
Similar competitors from area.
Yes, there are similar people, competitors, especially the private sector. If there are some businesses coming up, policies and this thing, the other, they are also interested in how it will affect this good.
Resource and women apply for that.
Yeah, that is the resources. Not only finances, they are also stakeholders who have an interest in this policy.
Government.
Yes, government, the politicians, the policymakers, they are interested in this. So we have to consult them also whether they are in agreement, the politicians. Meeting, we have to consult them more and this. So what we had consult convince them, then no problems. That is important. Decision makers. We call them decision makers. Non-decision makers. Anybody else come to your mind? So those are the broad stakeholder groups. International agencies, donor agencies, right? They were interested in providing you funding and all that. They are interested in this. National leaders, political legislators, governors, the public, the organization, the ministry, various other ministries, labor unions, medical associations, private sector, NGOs, civil society. That is, those are the people, the civil society, NGOs and so forth. Users and consumers, those are the beneficiaries of the policy. So these are very broad categories of stakeholders. So a stakeholder can be defined as persons or groups or institutions with interest in a project or programs. It may be even a policy. We can divide them into 2 or 3 categories. Firstly, the primary stakeholders. Primary stakeholders are those ultimately affected either positively or negatively, those who are directly affected, not indirectly, directly affected. Either positively they benefit or they are affected negatively. Those are the most important. Those are in the center of it. Those you have to consult them. These are the people who are directly affected, either positively or negatively. Those are called primary stakeholders. Then there are people, they are not directly affected, but indirectly affected. Secondary stakeholders. They are called secondary stakeholders are intermediaries in the aid delivery process. So in the intermediaries, these are the secondary source. Then you have these includes the definition of stakeholders include both winners and losers and those involved or excluded from decision making processes. Key stakeholders are those who can significantly influence or are important to the success of the project. So, how to identify the stakeholders? First, you start with what is the core issue that we are going to address with your policy. That's why we started with a problem or an issue. So, people who are directly affected from this issue, for this issue, are the primary stakeholders, those who are in the immediate circle. They are the people whose livelihoods are directly affected from your policy. Those are the primary stakeholders. They are the most important. They directly get affected. Either they can be affected positively because they will benefit from what you are going to do, or sometimes negatively. Then we have whose livelihood are indirectly affected. They are not directly affected. By indirectly, they can get affected. They are the secondary stakeholders. Indirectly, maybe they're like your suppliers. They will have other markets also, or this is only others, so they will not get directly affected. So those are stakeholders, secondary stakeholders. Then we have they don't get affected at all, but they have influence. Who influences or has an interest in the issue? Who is the group that you can think of, or anything they get interested and they make a big noise? No, not that. Huh? Reporters. Use word, a better word. Media. Media is an important stakeholder group. You have to tackle, identify, and brief them, educate them what they are going to do from the beginning. Before, otherwise they will influence the other stakeholders and affect your project. So stakeholders, we can are people who have an interest, those who have influence, who will get directly affected or from a policy, are the private stakeholders. Those who are indirectly affected, those who have an interest are the outer circle, the tertiary stakeholders. Right? Okay, clear? So, what are the characteristics? Now, you have identified the stakeholders, people who will get affected. Depending on your project, you decide who are the people who will get affected and you identify them one by one. Then, what are the characteristics you will analyze? What are the things that you will analyze in the stakeholder? Now, you have identified the stakeholder, beneficiaries, financing agencies. So, what are the things you will look in them to analyze? What will you look in them? Yeah? No, not that. And that. Why? Yes, their attitudes towards your. So are they positive with your project or negative? That is very important. So you don't have to worry about the people who are positive, who will support you, especially for people. So first thing you have to look at is this people favorable or interested in this or in support or they will be against your this. Those who get affected by. So that characteristic you have to know. Firstly, whether they are on the positive side or the negative side. What are their this form that you want to be? Okay? Yeah. Yeah, what are their capacities and all that, because you can make use of them in your analysis, in your project. You can involve them with their support also, their capacities. What else? Yes, okay, how they behave, their behavior, you have to look into such projects. Yes. Right, that is what you said, their capacity, their knowledge about the policy. Okay. How much do they know about what you are going to do? If they know, then you can make use of that knowledge. If they don't know, you can educate them. Then they will support. Because of their lack of knowledge, they might oppose. So once they come to know that this is a good thing that you are going to do, they will support you. So that, but beforehand knowing that will help you. That's why many people got into problems when trying to do policies or projects. People without educating that even the fact issue, they started removing these people and they came. So they, their knowledge, if they analyze that and see and then educate them, then they started supporting you. Knowledge of the policy interest related to the policy, how much they are interested. Whether they are very much interested, a little interested, or not that much interested at all. That is very important for you to analyze. Position for against the policy, whether you have to group them. These three are the people who supports. These are the people who then you can take special emphasis and special effort to tackle those people. Right. Position. Whether they are, that is also character. You must find out each stakeholder after you identify, are they supporting you or against you. Potential alliances with other stakeholders. This is also very important. Sometimes those groups will have connections with other stakeholders. That is also important for you, because otherwise they will influence before you. They will influence, oh no, don't support them, they are like that, they will receive before you go in. So knowing that affiliation. Now sometimes they are close to, say, whether they are media. So they will canvas the media and make a big about your policy and make a, so that knowing that, then you can handle them to get to the media before they go and tune them. So that's why it's important to know the characteristic with the other alliances, affiliation with other stakeholders, groups. Ability to affect the policy process, how far they can affect the policy process. Some people shout, but they can't make any impact on your policy. They are not very powerful. So therefore, that is also important. How much they can affect your this thing through power and their leadership. So these are some of the characteristics analyzed. You have to know about. And why is this analysis useful? By getting to know who are your stakeholders, their characteristics. Why it is important? Yes. You can take action beforehand, corrective those who are against or those who are not. If you know that they are not much knowledgeable about your policy, you can convince them, get them down and educate them. So like that, it's important that and also whether they are positive or negative, all that is important. Policymakers and managers can use a stakeholder analysis to identify key actors. So first tip is identify the key actors. Then you can assess their knowledge, interests, positions, alliances, and importance related to the policy. This allows policymakers and managers to interact more effectively with the key stakeholders. Once you know their characteristics, then you can accordingly interact with them. If they don't know, you can educate them. Increase the support for a given policy or program. You can get their support or convince them. So that is the importance of analyzing the stakeholders. When this analysis is conducted before a policy or a program is implemented, policymakers and managers can detect and act to prevent potential misunderstandings and or opposition to the policy or program. So if you do this analysis beforehand, then you can minimize the adverse effects. You can take corrective action. When the stakeholder analysis and other key tools are used to guide the implementation, the policy or the program is more likely to succeed. So if you do a proper analysis and use tools and that will help you when you are implementing, it will help you, and your program, it will succeed. Why we should do a stakeholder analysis? Stakeholder analysis help administrators and advisors to assess a project environment and to inform overseas development administration, negotiating position. Those who are funding, you can educate them. More specifically, doing a stakeholder analysis can draw out interests of stakeholders in relation to the problems which the project is seeking to address. or the purpose of the project once it has started. Identify conflicts of interest between stakeholders, which will influence assessment of project's riskiness before funds are committed. Help to identify relations between stakeholders which can be built upon and may enable coalitions of projects. So if you identify earlier, then those who are supporting you can get them together and they will support as a group. They'll be stronger. Similarly, you should stop allowing people who are against coming together, that you can prevent that happening. When should you do stakeholder analysis? Stakeholder analysis should always be done at the beginning of a project, even if it is a quick list of stakeholders and their interest. So better to do it as early as possible. Once you decide on the issue, project, a policy or a program or a project, and from them as early as possible you involve stakeholders, because then they will understand your thinking and they will support. Otherwise, some people do everything and at the last minute only they tell the stakeholders. By that time, they might oppose, you can't do anything also. But if you involve them early, then they also understand that even they are affected from your policy or the project, they know that you are doing a good thing for the general benefit of the country. For the majority of people will benefit and they will support. So when in the planning also of projects also you can involve, that is how we use the logical framework, and it has to be done in a workshop approach where the stakeholders are also brought together and the logical framework analysis is done. Who should do the analysis? The tools and exercises outlined below can be used in a participative method. That's why, so if you are doing a project, then you have to get the stakeholders all the involved in the analysis also. How much time should you spend? The following is the basic methodology, type and scale of the, depending on the type and scale of the project, you have to spend enough time. Then I'm going to go into detail of there are different methods. One method I will explain to you very briefly. Few steps in the stakeholder analysis. There are 8 major steps in the process. First, you have to plan the process. You have to plan the stakeholder analysis, how we are going to do it, when you are going to do it, who is involved, and then you select and define a policy. Then you identify key stakeholders who have an interest in this policy. Then you use some tools to do the analysis. There are tools available. I'll show you one tool, a simple tool to how to analyze the stakeholders. That is, we call mapping. You map out the stakeholders. So then, after adapting the tool, you have to collect and record the information about each stakeholder. You have to document it, put it down. This stakeholder interests are this. These are their mandate. They are favorable or what not. All that information you have to put down. So there is a simple table. Various columns are there. So that information you just keep on filling that, and then you analyze the table and use that information. It's a simple procedure. So it is very useful, yield very valuable interest and have an interest in the health system. This information can be used to provide input for other analysis. When you are developing your logical framework, action plans, all that. So because the stakeholders who are involved in the policy now, they understand, they will support you in the implementation also, they will support you. So it will increase the support and build consensus, and then the policymaker, they will have support in implementing advocacy, all that. So we learned this process the politically dominated part and the technically dominated part, starting with the issue, agendas, decisions, and then the technical part starts with the policy formulation and legitimizing, or that is formalization. Then your constituency building, that is where the stakeholders come in, resource mobilization, implementing design and organizational structuring, and progress impact monitoring. So you start by identifying the key stakeholders, compile and review existing information, look at who are the people who will be interested in this, develop a list of all possible stakeholders. So that is the first step. You have to prepare a list of all possible stakeholders. Then from that you would develop you can't involve all the stakeholders, develop a priority list. First you must go for the primary stakeholder, then secondary, then tertiary. So most important. Develop a list of priority stakeholders with input from experts. So this is the table I reviewed. You can document all the things. So there's a index number and then the position and organization. The stakeholder, you give a identifier number, one stakeholder, 1, 2, like that. And then in the next column, you put down their position and the organization, whether it is an individual or an organization, you put that. Then the C column, you put whether the stakeholder is internal or like external. What do you mean by internal? Whether the stakeholder is internal or external. Internal is from the system. There are stakeholders now in the say the health policy. The Ministry of Health staff, all the hospital staff, all are internal stakeholders. So the beneficiaries people are external stakeholders. They are not in your organization, they are outside the organization. Then D is you have to assess their knowledge. You can have a coding system 1, 2, 3. If they are very knowledgeable, you put 3, less 2, like that you see. So in that column you classify them how much they know about what you are going to do. Then E is their position. With regard to the policy, their interest, whether their interest is advantageous or disadvantageous to you. Knowing that is important. Then their alliances, I said, with whom are they familiar or have links with other organizations. Then the resources, H column, you put down the resources they have. And the I column, the power. And whether the leadership, whether there is leadership or not, like that. So it's a simple, don't worry about this table. Just to put down, there are different tools. This one simple tool they use to do a stakeholder analysis. So you put down all the stakeholders, put their properties, then you look at it and you get a picture of who are the people who will affect your badly affect or not affect your project. So I'm not going to, each one is describe each characteristic, how to identify. I'm not going to do that. So save time. Each column is now described. You can literally go through it. These are all explanatory notes, how to put down, what to put down in the table. Right. Any questions about stakeholder analysis? You can now write something or think of something about